Well, the state of the talent gap in the insurance industry is complex. It started probably in the late 1990s when a lot of the carriers began to close down their insurance schools. They did a lot of the training of young people who then they put in agencies. That was one thing. The next thing that was happening is the technology space was exploding, as well as Wall Street, and a lot of young people didn't think insurance was sexy enough, and didn't give them enough money. The money was both in technology and in Wall Street, so we didn't attract a lot of young people. And as a result, the population in the insurance industry began to age. It's a huge boomer population. And also the boomer population ranges for far more years than any other age group, so it's at least a 20-year age group. And so by 2007, the industry began to worry about and write about this huge boomer potential retirement and having this huge drain brain with not attracting enough young people into the industry. Well, for the industry what has been working on to fill the talent gap and how successful it's been, well, it's problematic. The industry has been trying quite a few things. One of the things they're beginning to understand is that you can't just go to colleges to find talent today. It's just not filling enough of the talent gap that we need, that they have to start looking at non-traditional ways of doing this. They have to go to maybe 2-year colleges. The industry, if you look at the baby boomers, the majority of them were not college graduates, yet they've been the brains behind the business for years. And by moving to really just looking at colleges, we made a mistake, and so we lost a lot of talent we probably could have brought into the industry. So now they're re-looking at this and saying, maybe let's start soliciting at 2-year colleges. I'm trying to convince them to even start looking at high school graduates. Because a lot of our boomers only had a high school education. So they're also looking at creating more kinds of mentorship programs. We don't have enough of that. Internships, we should really be creating a lot of internships in the industry so that people learn and understand how powerful our industry is. So the industry is beginning to look at a number of different methodologies for attracting young people. And then the issue becomes how to keep them. That's another issue, because young people just move very quickly. And so the industry is used to having people with longevity. So it has to rethink that, because longevity might not be there going forward. All right, so the trends, some of the big trends affecting the search for talent is we do have a shortage of people. There is a labor shortage in this country, and so a lot of industries are fighting for the same young talent because they're facing the same issue. The other issue that's affecting is that young people, 23% of young people job hop. And that is really affecting the industry, because they're not understanding what that means and how do you prevent that, or maybe figure out a way to have them job hop within the industry. We should have to work together to figure that out, because if we all just worry about ourselves with job hopping, then they'll job hop to other industries. So we need to come up with a methodology to keep that job hopping maybe within the industry, so at least we keep the talent. And the other is that the industry is also moving to looking at the underserved population. Military, they come back, they're great to retrain and bring into the industry. There are a lot of amazing not-for-profits for underserved children that these kids can be mentored and have internships and grow within the industry, and they would stay because they'd be thankful for the opportunity they would have. So we have to start looking at many alternatives, and the industry is. There are some companies that are also setting up their own insurance schools to teach kids, because they're finding, just going to get a license isn't going to really teach you insurance the way you need to know it. And again, not everyone in the insurance industry, unless you're in the retail space, might need a license, but there are no real insurance, like 2-year insurance schools. So some insurance companies are setting up their own schools, because the future is going to be about the skills, not necessarily a college degree, but more about the skills, upskilling, because AI is going to shift how we do things. And so we really need to look at that going forward on how to really create the skills and the talent that we need, exclusive, not just out of college, but out of other avenues that can help us build the kind of staff that we need. Well, how AI works to find the right candidates is a bit complicated and problematic. AI has been helping. If you go to a job board, people put their jobs up on a job board. Indeed is probably the largest job board that there is. And how it works, I mean, it does help, because it does look at words in a resume and words in your job ad. There are some questions the applicant has to answer. So the AI does screen based on checking words against another word. It's a machine learning what words match words. And so applicants come to you that may be more qualified, but the problem is it's not really qualifying the applicant, because you can put a word on a resume that's the same word that's sitting on a job ad. So a good example might be, if I'm a CSR and a retail broker, in my mind I did some underwriting. So I write down as my job, I underwrote risk. All right, and now a lot of people apply, young people apply to any job. I mean, I put out job ads where I actually, a bartender has applied for the job. I mean, and they know nothing about insurance, but everyone's desperate, people are desperate for work at certain levels, so they'll apply to anything. And believe it or not, that job bartender came through because of some of the words that were on the resume. So the issue is, I could put underwriters as CSR and apply for underwriter's job, and you're going to get my resume and a carrier who's looking for, let's say, a property underwriter, and I wouldn't be qualified at all. So it does streamline some of it. So instead of getting 200 resumes, of which only 10 are valuable, you'll now maybe get 100 resumes and maybe 10 are valuable. So it's complicated because there isn't enough qualifying going on within that process, because it's still, I guess it's still too new. That will evolve. There will be more sophisticated methodologies used to make sure that you're getting better qualified resumes. The limitations are quite a few. First of all, again, I recommend that you stop putting college degree required on your job ad, because that's going to be, a minute you put college degree, you're going to be eliminating a huge amount of the population who could probably do a very good job. So the problem with AI in the job ads, depending on what you put in the job ad, it's going to exclude a lot of people. So by putting college degree, you exclude a lot. If you don't put salary, a salary range, you're going to exclude people, because the people who are more experienced might want, they say, well, there's no salary, that means it's going to be a low salary. So they may not, you have to sell, and if people aren't looking at a job ad as really selling their company. Why should you work for me? It's really, you want to bring in the best kind of candidates. So you got to make sure you also put in not just some hard skills, but some soft skills that you want from them. And you also have to make sure the job ad represents your job. What a lot of people do is they put out an all-encompassing job ad to bring in the biggest net, but that's not effective, because what happens, you bring in too many people who are not qualified and not the right people. And a lot of times these job ads are written based on a job description. Here's another problem. When was the last time you updated your job description? So your job ad is totally outdated and looking for the wrong person, because you're basing it on a job description, which is typically how a job ad gets written, off of a job description. So my advice is to make sure you go back and look at your job description. Make sure it's right for today. What are the skills you need today? And make sure you have the right title in your job ad, because if it's not if some people's titles are so esoteric today, I mean, I wouldn't even know what their job really is. So you have to make sure, no matter what you call the job internally, that externally you put the job title actually what it means to everybody else in the industry, so that you actually have the right people apply. So advice I would give hiring managers is, first they have to look at the job description for that job and make sure that it's accurate, which means they have to communicate more with HR and say, okay, I need this job filled, but I know you've already put a job out in the past. I don't know if that job ad is correct. I need to see my job description, and I need to go through it carefully and make sure it's the right thing. Then when you write the job ad, I would like to see it, because I want to make sure you're emphasizing the things that are most important to me. What happens sometimes is HR just does this, and they don't fully understand the hiring manager's needs. And so there is a disconnect, a miscommunication. And so they really need to work together and make sure you're getting the right message out there on your job ad of what you're exactly looking for. And the hiring manager, when the resumes do come in, they should work with HR to look at them, and they should help siphon through them to decide which are the best people that they feel would work for them. Because HR might not understand all the nuances of a job. HR is there really to help them, but they have to make sure they communicate well with HR so that they can do it together and make sure they fill the position with the right person. The other issue is when they finally receive the resumes. How do you make the decision? The hiring manager and HR have to be very careful, because once you interview somebody, there's an effect. There becomes a bias effect. If they look like me, becomes an issue. So you have to be careful who interviews and how many people should interview to make sure you don't have that effect. So that's one. Two is many times the resume is not really accurate as well. So when you're looking at those resumes, you have to also look at what their skills really are, what their soft skills are, because people don't always tell the truth on their resumes. In addition, you should also make sure that you have a bias-free interview questions, because many times your questions happen to have some bias in them that you're not aware of. And also you have to make sure you consider the soft skills of that person, because many times it's more important. You can teach somebody content, but you can't, if you're someone who needs to do customer service, you need to know they're empathetic. You can't teach someone to have empathy at 25 years old. I mean, it would be very difficult, but you could certainly teach somebody some of the skills needed for customer service. So you have to be careful you have to be careful that you don't exclude talent, because they might not have the exact hard skills you need, but they have the soft skills. And too many people get excluded because of that.